Good morning, good morning. Well, at least good morning where I am. My name is Stefan Winterboer, and I'm going to be hosting this morning's epic Live at the Waterhole show. We open up this particular morning with our Africam Old Donya feed all the way up in East Africa, southern Kenya, and what a sight to greet us. This pan has just been a source of constant activity over the last couple of days, and particularly with large elephant bulls. And this morning is no different. The show is live, it is interactive, and that means that what you're looking at right now is what I'm looking at right now, and it's what's happening right now. And it also means that you can ask me some questions and send your comments and, make just give us your thoughts about what you think about the show and what you're looking at. This can be done by registering on WildEarth's website, and I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to be with you for the next 3.5 hours. Oh, sorry, 3 hours. Gosh, 3.5 hours. I wish it was so. And just look at this. Right, so it looks partly cloudy above this elephant bull with a little bit of sun coming through, but why don't we see what the weather's looking at in the rest of the locations today? As you can see, a slight increase in temperature up in Namibia and in Kenya, with a sort of stable weather system over South Africa. Very, very chilly this morning over over Kimberley, right down to 0 degrees, and probably with the wind chill factor, probably far below zero. Can't imagine it's much fun there at all this morning. Sunrise anywhere from sort of 6:30 to 6:50 I was seeing, and it is 9:33 now, so the sun's been up for quite some time. The moon is 2 days from full, so it was full 2 days ago, 2 or 3 days ago, and shed the most unbelievable light last night. It was a bright, bright, bright night last night, so much so there were shadows being cast everywhere. It was an epic evening. And so I'm expecting that animals would have been moving around, particularly this time of the year is dry. Not quite so dry here where we're looking at, but at some of our other camera locations, definitely winter and the dry season's in full swing. And that means that animals are needing to move further afield from water. Oh gosh, look at this. What's happening here? So that head shake that you saw there is what an elephant does just when he wants to let himself be known. It's sort of a, hey, I'm here. Nothing much more than that. It's not to clear a block in his ear or anything else. It's sort of I'm undecided about this and what you are. I just want to let you know I'm here. I'm a big guy. I don't really want to get into an argument with you. Can you just keep your distance and your space? And it can be subconscious. They can actually do that without them actually cognizantly being aware of them shaking their head. So they will shake the head at you if one of us were walking past him, for instance, just to, you can see what he's doing now. He's rocking back on his back foot. Something's coming. I'm expecting there to be something popping up into our screen on the right-hand side. Let's see what it is. The anticipation is actually quite delicious. Notice there that he's reacting to something, some other type of stimulus. And you'll notice that from looking at behind his trunk on his belly. Elephants quite often have that reaction when they are feeling a little bit unsure of something and want to dominate it. So it's often one of those subtle signs that we look for. It is also a precursor to urination and defecation. So it's not always as in response to a threat or some other disturbance. You can see there what I'm talking about. Let's see what he does. What's he going to do now? Doesn't look comfortable. He looks like something's going to happen. Ah, there we go. We know exactly what's going to happen. He's going to make some space. Gosh. Adding to that impressive pile of manure that's around the pan. And there we go with the accompanying hose down. Person operating our camera, thank you very much. It's good. you, you can't help but smile at a picture like this. Goodness me. You can see that his tusks have got some mud on them, so he's had a mud bath somewhere in the last couple of hours. If you have a look upwards from his tusks up onto his forehead, you'll notice that there's some cracks on his forehead. That's all mud that he's thrown over his head, and which has dried in the sun and the wind. And they do that as a sun protection, and also as a deterrent to insects or biting insects. He looks to be a fairly old guy. If I move left and right of that cracked forehead, the mud on his forehead, you can see that his temples are quite shrunken in. His ears are pretty tatty. His tusks are in great condition for an elephant that supposedly is on the, as they say, the back nine of a golf course. That's my reference. I don't mean anything else. When I say the back nine, I'm referring specifically to the homeward bound portion of a golf course. And if I have a look at how fibrous his dung is that he just deposited there on the ground to his right-hand side, sorry, our right-hand side of the screen, you can see that it's very fibrous-y. And why that's important is that elephants reach about 55 to 65 years of age, and their maximum or their longevity, old age, is usually affected by their diet, which has a direct effect on how quickly their teeth wear down. They have two different types of teeth in their mouth. They've got the incisors, we call them tusks, they're exposed incisors, elongated. And then they've got molars, and they get 6 different sets of molars in their life. And food wears them down, or eating wears them down. The grinding motion that their jaws put on the teeth. And once they reach their final set of molars and that starts to wear down completely, they are incapable of chewing their food as much as what they need to. And what happens then is that it starts to come out looking a lot more fibrous-y than it did previously, in previous years. And you can see that that's evidenced in his dung off on our right-hand side. Dave, you've made our first comment of the show. So hello, firstly, Dave. I hope you're keeping well today. And you've said that is one impressive elephant. I 100% agree with you. He's a nice tall bull elephant as well. You find them, they have body structures that change. Some of them are squat and strong. Others have sort of massive heads and forequarters. Others are tall and rangy. He's a tall, rangy one. And I quite like his tusks as well. Nicely shaped, not too big. Nice sort of curve to them toward the center, not too widely splayed. A good looking elephant. In the background, we just had some giraffe, some Maasai giraffe, and some Eastern oryx, East African oryx, come into the shot. You see this giraffe is now walking quite boldly up to the pan. Let's see if this elephant will allow him to drink. Yesterday and the day before, we had some elephant around the pan that tend to get quite territorial over their water and won't allow anything else to come and drink. Let's see what he does. Doesn't seem like he's too perturbed. We saw elephants yesterday spend, I don't know, it was most of the 3 hours that the show was going for yesterday. We spent with some elephant around this pan, almost to the exclusion of everything else. There's lots of eland around, lots of zebra, lots of giraffe around, even a troop of baboon. So you don't quite know what's going to be coming around these pans. Let's see what this giraffe. There we go. This elephant's going to allow this giraffe to come forward. Come on. No, giraffe is too nervous. Come on, you can do it. There you go. It's a female Maasai giraffe. She's a bit shy. No, no, come on, don't be shy. Don't. Oh, something scared her off to the right, off to the left. Sorry, girl. I wonder what it was. Elephant's just busy freezing as well, just busy listening. See if you can hear something in the distance there. Luckily, it didn't seem like it scared this giraffe too much. She only moved a little bit away and is standing there just watching the pan. It might just be too much for her to have the elephant drinking so close. It's a vulnerable position that a giraffe puts itself in when it goes to drink. Its head's down, its legs are widely splayed, knees bent. It's not a comfortable position for a giraffe to be in. And so they don't like it when there's a lot of activity around. They prefer it when it's calm and they can drink at their own pace. Yeah, she comes in again. So she's got quite a distinct ossicone, which is the it looks like a horn, but it isn't actually a horn on the head. The one in the distance, you can see the two ossicones sticking up above the head. Giraffe are born with them. They lie flat against the skull and they then attach, they calcify to the skull over some time. But in this process, they can be damaged. They can bump against one another, they can hurt the growth bed, and they can deform somewhat. Not very common, but not this giraffe we're watching now, the one going out the shot now, but the one that will come close by here now. Have a look at her head and you'll see that her ossicone is slightly deformed. On a female, it makes no difference. They don't use their horns for anything. On a male, might make a bit of a difference as they fight to their heads. But not much, I don't think. You see when she bends down, it looks like she's got a horn that's sort of slightly deformed. Haven't quite yet decided what caused it, but that's the puzzle for now. Yesterday we were noticing that it is actually possible to identify elephant in particular that come down to this waterhole. And what we thought we were going to do was to take some screenshots of some noticeable characteristics on these elephants and see how frequent they come to drink. I don't remember seeing this guy, although he could have been part of a small bachelor herd from the day before yesterday. But distinctly, he has that tear in his ear, his size and his body condition. That feeding notch that you can see in his right hand tusk will be distinctly shaped, and he will have a very distinctly shaped feeding notch that's his own. And there might be one or two other scars or scratches that we can see. We can see when he comes to drink again. If he comes to drink again. Elephant wander all over the place and can wander for hundreds of kilometers before coming back to the same place. I was watching an incredibly shot film on Netflix just a few nights ago, and they had a group of elephants in India which walked north out of their reserve because of a drought, 400 miles north, reached a city 400 miles away, spent some time freaking everybody out, and then turned around and marched all the way back to the game reserve that they came from a couple of months later. And if you were just a casual observer, you would have noticed that the elephants were missing, but you maybe thought that they were in a thick bush somewhere or didn't see them for a while. And all of a sudden they arrived back and you saw them again. You wouldn't have known that these elephants had walked 800 miles and been to visit a city causing some chaos and then came back again. And that's just the glory of these elephants. Here we've been joined by some Cape eland, a herd of females. They often, and surprisingly, because I don't really, I've never really thought of eland as being bold, but these eland are the ones that have managed to bully their way into the herd of elephant that was here yesterday, at least anyway. And they're not shy. In particular, these females, they come from far away. They want to drink. They're going to drink, and they do drink. Just as a gentle reminder, we are live. This is a live show. This is what's happening right now at Africam Aldonio, which is up in an enormous conservancy in southern Kenya, way over 100,000 hectares, 111,000 hectares, as far as I'm aware, which is a quarter of a million acres. And what we have in the background there is two oryx busy having a bit of a tussle, one getting speedily out of the way. We have some eland, which is the rusty colored large antelope that you see in the sort of middle of the picture and just off to the right. And then, of course, we have a huge bull elephant, a mature bull elephant, busy drinking at the water. He's just taking his time to drink from the freshest source of water, which is coming from a pipe sort of between his legs. You'll see he'll put his trunk on it. It's just bubbling up through there very slowly. It's a trickle. And so to get the amount of water he needs, these he's spending quite a substantial time around that seep. Yesterday, in fact, one elephant dominated that little water point for, I don't know, 2.5 hours, while he just sucked up a little bit of water at a time, sprayed it into his mouth. Still looks like he's unsure, this elephant. Something is bothering him. See, they're rocking from side to side. His ears are out now. He's got his head slightly lifted. He's stopped what he's doing. Let's see what his tail does. If his tail cocks, there we go. You see it's cocking slightly to the one. No, he's still wagging it. Okay. Threat gone. It could be an aeroplane in the distance. It could be some random activity from some animals that he can't see. It could be a smell. No, I doubt it's a smell. He would have lifted his truck above his head if it was. The way he's folded his back foot now. Couldn't be more relaxed even if he tried. Such a classic pose. I love it. I found such an interesting article about the Cape eland, this one that we're looking at now, the East African eland. Oop, something is bothering that bull. That's a female at the water. Male. Something's happening there. Off behind the camera. Not enough to scare the animals off from drinking, but definitely enough to keep them wary. Just on the edge of his comfort zone there. You can see one more step, not comfortable. There you go. He's now. Let's see if this oryx has a different level of tolerance for whatever. No, this eland is not comfortable. There's definitely something there. He won't come past this female. His tolerance level for that disturbance is there, but no, having his head down in the water is also an issue. No. Eland don't need to drink every day. They're actually quite drought tolerant. They will drink, obviously. We've seen a lot of eland come down to drink at this waterhole, and there's been a lot at Namibia's Okakoya waterhole as well. But they're independent of needing to drink water and can get most of what they need from the vegetation that they eat. In Kenya, I was once lucky enough to spend some time with a man who had tried to domesticate eland as part of the farming venture that he was on. They're resistant to African tick-borne diseases. They're large. Their milk is pretty good to have a fat content of sort of between 10 and 12%. But they never could quite get it off the ground. Eland require, relatively speaking, a lot more land than what cattle do. And they're quite aggressive. They're not tame. They're wild animals. And placed in confinement or in commercial agriculture scenarios, they don't do that well, so they don't quite get it off the ground. But an interesting concept nonetheless. Yeah, he definitely is not comfortable with whatever's behind this camera. Ooh, Jesse Gill, you've asked an interesting question. Well, it'll lead to an interesting discussion, but your question is, can elephant tusks grow back if they damage one? Um, Not, Jessica. They will continue to grow throughout an elephant's life, and they actually accelerate in growth the older the elephant gets. So it reaches a point where the growth becomes exponential, relatively speaking, and that older elephant have massive tusks. But they do have two sets of tusks. They get a milk set, which falls out before they're a year old and doesn't really protrude past their lip, and then they get their adult set, which in this case is the pair that you're looking at. They can be harvested though. So if you don't damage the nerve, so similar to our tooth, it has a root and the root has a nerve in it, and the nerve keeps the tooth alive, and with a blood supply, and will continue the continue to add to the root continues to add to the ability for the tusk to grow. You can harvest elephant tusk throughout the course of an elephant's life, um, provided you don't kill the elephant or damage the root. And therein lies the interesting debate. Ivory is obviously a commodity that is traded all over the world and has been for hundreds, if not thousands, of years as a high value commodity. And on one side of the fence, you've got people saying that it's a renewable resource, that you can actually harvest elephant tusk, and that elephants can, in some instances, and I'm not going to be giving my point of view on this, I'm just saying what I've read. In some instances, um, the relative diminution of elephant can be achieved, and then you can renewably harvest this resource without damaging the elephant whatsoever, causing any undue harm or stress to it, and therefore create or feed the market. The other hand is saying, if the demand is fueled, won't it increase demand and therefore place pressure on elephant in natural environments, and drive up the demand and therefore increase poaching? So it's an interesting debate. It is hotly debated. To be honest with you, it's a very contentious, emotional issue. Um, but you can decide for yourself what you believe, and there's so many resources out there to help you make up your own mind. But yeah, quite interesting. We're having a flood of zebra just coming into the pan. Interestingly, you can actually sex a zebra from the back, um, just by looking at that broad stripe under the tail, or that black stripe, the black vertical stripe under the tail. A broad stripe is a female, and a relatively skinny stripe is a male. So this one right in the middle here, this big female facing right, she's a female. Um, but you can see that there's a couple of males in the picture as well. Specifically, the one that's second from the right, that's a male, or a stallion, a youngster, but a stallion nonetheless. The one on the far left is another mare. Second on the left is also a mare. Just an interesting way of being able to determine whether it's a male or a female zebra. Such a great view. There's so much hustle and bustle around this waterhole. You see these zebra coming in, bulling their way in. Some of you might be wondering if these zebra form part of the migration of zebra and wildebeest, that epic story that's told in the Greater Serengeti ecosystem. I don't think so. I think these zebra, they live here, they're sedentary here. I'm going to be finding out throughout the course of the day where the big herds are, and I'll let you know. The migration is, of course, cyclical. There isn't a start or an end to the migration. The migration has a reference point in December in the southern plains around a place called Mdutu in Tanzania, where the calves are born. Mating then happens around the Grumeti River, also in northern Tanzania. And then around July, the herds move across the Mara River for those spectacular crossings with all the crocodiles and the drownings, etc., and into the Masai Mara. And then return once the rains come back, return to Tanzania as soon as the rains come back. So anywhere from sort of August onwards. Once the rains start coming back, then the zebra pickle through back into, or the zebra and the wildebeest anyway, pickle through back into Tanzania, making their way down to the southern shortgrass plains. Such an energy around these zebra at the moment, but a happy energy. I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it. It's not like a frenzied energy where they're just running around terrified that they're going to get eaten by something. It's sort of like just a well-resourced energy, a happy that today is today energy. Play fighting, lashing out at each other. I just had a look on an app called Herd Tracker about where the migration zebra and wildebeest are, and they are right now on the border between Tanzania and Kenya, whereas and a couple of 100 kilometers sort of north and west of where we are now. We're also on the border of Tanzania and Kenya, um, but we're on the other side of Mount Kilimanjaro and Arusha, to give you an idea, and outside of the Greater Serengeti ecosystem. The herds at the moment, where the migration is happening in East Africa, is all around the sort of Mara Triangle um, and the Lamai Wedge, which is all on the Mara River on the Tanzanian border. So if you have a look in a window wherever you are, open up a map of the Serengeti, and you can sort of trace your finger up to the border with Kenya. You'll find the river there, the Mara River. The herds are all sort of between Kenya and Tanzania on the Mara River, and will be hanging around there for the next couple of weeks until the rains come back. And the rains are coming from the north, moving south, and the herds will follow the rains to the better grazing areas in Tanzania around Ndutu, which is far further south of where we are now, almost in a direct line of where we are now. So these zebra that live there are having a proper game there. One oryx going to sneak in here for a drink between the zebra and the eland. I think how quickly they get lost in all the activity. I'm amazed at how tolerant this elephant is of all this boisterous play with the zebra. He is not phased at all. Calmly just standing there and sucking up his water. Probably just wondering of why these zebra are so feisty this morning. Same as what we are. Interestingly, the first fossil records of the eland that we're looking at right now were found in Tanzania, not too far away from where we are now, in a gorge that is renowned for its archaeology and called Olduvai Gorge. And they first sort of appear in the histories around 6 million years ago, but the first fossils were found dating back to about half a million to a million years ago. So they're not a very old species of animal on the planet, something like a crocodile, for instance. This is a fairly newly evolved species of animal, and you'd almost expect that being a grass eater, exclusively specialized grasses. Grasses also have only evolved relatively recently, quite a complex thing, the grass. And so animals needed to evolve the ability to eat them. And in particular, specialized systems, digestive systems like what the eland have and the oryx. And so, well, quite a surprise. I thought that they were a little bit older than that. Um, Eland as a species are only sort of, as we know them now, only about a half a million to a million years in the making. Only a blink in the eye on a planet as old as ours. Some eland wrestling there, kicking up some dust. Gosh, there's a lot of energy around here today. Our planet's been around sort of for 3.5 billion years. Our sun's been around for, I think, about 5 billion years. Give you an idea, the universe, I think, is around about 13 to 14 billion years old under the current understanding. And in that time has managed to stretch about 90 billion years across. 90 billion light years. Wow, the sound that's coming from here must be incredible. Lots of hustle and bustle. Gio, I must agree with you on that. These are such fantastic images that we're seeing here every morning. Um, it really is. Not only do we get treated to just a bunch of activity that is, quite special to see from a static camera position like we're seeing now. Very different to the live drives that we do, where we're driving the camera around to wherever action is. But just sitting here, waiting for action to come to us, and then being treated with such abundance is a real treat. It really is amazing. And then to spend such long periods of time looking at these animals and being able to learn about them without moving on quite as quickly is the hallmark of the show, right? The fact that we can sit and watch a pan and watch this activity and marvel and wonder and question and discuss everything that we're busy seeing is just a real privilege. A real privilege. Something's happened there with that elephant. You can see his ears are now open and his trunk is moving around through the dust clouds. I wonder if his water source was somehow impacted. It's all this dust being kicked up there in the background. I think there are two eland that are giving each other a go for it. It's not just zebra dust that's being brought in. You can see it's blowing from the back, sort of. I wonder if there isn't a fight going on there between two eland. They do maintain harems, which means that males will fight for female. But it could also be a zebra just having a dust bath. You just can't see. A zebra kicks off fiery. Quite capable of kicking a lion off their back. And in fact breaking bones. It's not an uncommon thing to find lions with cracked jaws and cracked skulls. And it's all from the zebra, which just fire out those kicks with tremendous power. They also bite at each other as well. Male zebra actually have a canine. Can you believe it? Looks like something out of some horror movie, but it's this peg-like canine that they can bite each other with, and they can actually inflict quite deep wounds and lacerations on their forequarters. They bite at each other around the neck and the flanks. And they use that canine to tear at each other as well. Imagine with a zebra with fangs that protrude like a saber-toothed cat out of its mouth. Obviously that's just my imagination running away with me, but what a sight that would be. Zebra with tusks. Harris, you've sent in a comment this morning saying that the zebra are your entertainment. I think we all share that with you this morning, Harris. It really is cool. I mean, you battle to actually pick one out to watch. I love their tails. They look like windscreen wipers. And then their faces are beautifully marked. I love that pattern above their front leg, just on their shoulder when it joins their body. That like triangle pattern. It captures my eye every time. And then their foreheads are beautifully shaped, and their ears are so, I don't know, they're emotive. Not emotive, they're expressive. This almost looks like a postcard, to be honest with you. You've got all these zebra in the front standing in a relatively straight line, and to my eye at least anyway. They're all standing in a sort of parallel line, legs and backs. You've got this huge elephant which is just sort of dominating the left-hand side of the picture, and then every now and again you've got this giant eland that sticks his head up. It's a Cape eland, or common eland, but an enormous animal nonetheless. And you're looking at a big bull eland weighing 4 times as much as what a zebra stallion weighs. To say that again, right? So a big bull eland will be 4 times the mass of a zebra. And interestingly, 4 times less than a big bull elephant. It's a pretty cool stat, right? You're looking at an elephant weighing in at about 4 tons, male, like this. A big eland bull weighing in at 1,000 kilograms a ton, and then a zebra weighing in at 250 kilograms. All right, we just left Old Donyo in Kenya and jumped a couple of thousand kilometers west to Okokweyo in Namibia. Coming to you live from these remote locations, every now and again, we get picture breakup and issues like that. And it's just a common thing. We got to deal with gremlins the same as any technology does. Thankfully, we have other options, and this particular option is very different to what we saw yesterday. Right off the cuff, you can see that there must have been a wind blowing for quite some time. The sky isn't quite as blue as what we've been used to over the last couple of days. It's got this sort of brownish white tinge to it, and everything seems a bit subdued, a bit hazy. The, the bushes in the back aren't quite as sharp. The sky isn't quite as blue, and then, of course, the entire surface of this pan is ruffled with wind. I do know that there's a big front coming into Cape Town, and this is affecting weather over thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of square kilometers all around it. And I don't think that Namibia is excluded from that. These are springbuck, for those of you who don't know what we're looking at here. These little antelope that you're looking at, it's a very common antelope, which we find here in Etosha in relatively large numbers, a favorite food of the cheetah. Whereas at Oldonyo, we're seeing a lot of eland, much larger animals, a lot of eland, a lot of oryx, and we've seen a lot of zebra. Over the last couple of days, we've seen lots of zebra, not as many as at Oldonyo, at least anyway. Lots of oryx, a few kudu, and a few eland. And even yesterday, some bull elephant that came down and sat drinking at the what? Yeah, you can see some oryx coming in from the back. They tend to come rushing into the water here. Something that I've noticed over the last couple of days is they come straight at the water. They pick up their pace and they come straight in, and often they wade straight into the water drinking. Let's see if this is going to be any different. Definitely not the same as Old Donyo, where they tend to be quite cautious. See this one here in the background? He comes running in down the game path. Let's see what he does. See if he dives face first straight into the water. No, he stopped just on the edge. Pretty atypical in walking, although they do love to go in there. So yeah, he's now come across the water and waded straight in. Go drinking. They sometimes go a little bit deeper than that, not much. The springbuck tend to go all the way into the middle, swim around, and we've even seen a couple swimming around there, doing literal laps. So I just had a look and see what the wind is doing in Etosha today. And it's about 27 kilometers per hour, 17 miles per hour. And to put that into context for you, at about half that speed, it becomes uncomfortable for people. So anything less than half is sort of just breeze, and the trees ruffle a bit and the grass shakes a little bit. And, it's just normal. Around about 16, you start to notice, when it's blowing today. And at 27, when it's blowing now, it's noticeable. Things, you're going to have things being knocked over by gusts. The trees are shaking. It's no wonder that the sky above us is this reddy white color, and you can see that everything's got sort of a subdued hue, um, like it's been smudged. The trees in the distance are not as sharp. Yo, but that springbuck can skedaddle. Just up and out of there at light speed. Ah, that's why. An elephant arrived. Probably found that elephant marched in. Gosh, look at the wind blowing over the water. You can see it just ruffling that water and gusts and gales. And no wonder the trees in the background are in dust. It's picking up all the dust, fetching it from this plane and blowing it over the trees. Thorn tree off on our left hand side, you can actually see how the leaves are blowing. Wind actually freaks animals out, to be honest. I notice when the wind has been blowing at Juma, you don't see a lot at all. You go out on game drive and everything feels like it's hiding away from me. Let's see if this is a male or a female elephant. Tuskless elephant, so it's got no tusks. As we were mentioning yesterday, it's not an uncommon thing to see. Unusual to have an elephant without tusks, but not uncommon. Gosh, the wind is picking up now. You can just see it blowing across the water. Dave, that's such a nice question from you. You've just asked me if this is a natural waterhole. Dave, no, this is a man-made waterhole. It is right on the just outside a camp called Okakwea in Etosha National Park. It is pumped. Etosha's rest camps have pans at them, and it's one of the most it's one of the best features at Etosha, as far as I'm concerned, at the rest camps, in that you can have such a wide variety of animals right in the camp itself, but protected. Or people are protected from the animals, or the animals are protected from the people. It depends on which way you want to look at it. Um, but there are natural seeps in the Etosha pans. The Etosha salt pans are an enormous feature. You're looking at 150 kilometers, 100 miles across by 50 kilometers wide. It's in some places like an enormous feature. And on the short grass plains, just next to these salt pans, you do get these natural seeps coming up, and there's quite a few active ones. I went to go visit when I was there. Um, Probably about half a day's drive north of where we're sitting at the moment at Okakwea, and they're the most unbelievable features. If you ever have the chance to get to Tosha in September, October, you should. It's Really is quite an impressive area in Namibia for sure. I would almost say, Dave, that where these elephants are standing right now is where the water is coming out of the pump or the pipe. Elephants love fresh water. And this elephant would have now come in and uncovered where the freshest water is, and that would be where the pan's been pumped. And I stand corrected. I apologize, everybody. Both of these elephants have tusks. Sorry, my screen resolution wasn't good enough to show you the tusks. They're just very short and small, and are not as well built as those elephant tusks we see in the Kruger or that we see up in Kenya. And that's probably got a lot to do with the elephant's diet in this area just not being conducive to the development of big tusks. There'll be something lacking in their diet and genetics. Have a look at these two. Very respectfully tussling with each other for access to the freshest water. You saw the one sort of holding the other one's trunk, like, hey, hurry up, make some space here, I'm thirsty. Both of these elephants displaying that very characteristic white color that the Etosha animals, and in particular the elephants, are well known for, and that comes from those natural seeps where they wash themselves with water that has this dissolved calcrete in it, which is the white rock that you're seeing in the distance. Rainwater that has carbon dioxide dissolved into it dissolves and breaks down that rock. It then mixes with any water, and when elephants bath or dust bathe with it, it coats their bodies this white color. What a great sighting. Here we have a question from Miggy, which I'm going to need to be able to do a little bit of research on. You wanted to know how long have elephants been on Earth for, and I think that's a great. So what I'm going to do is quickly just research that for us, Miggy. I don't know the answer definitively, but let me find out for us quickly. It'll be great to know. So, Miggy, I have the answer here from what I can find, and it's quite interesting. So, the oldest animals that looked like elephants, so that sort of have the characteristics that our modern elephant have, sort of jumped onto the scene around about 40 million years ago. But it really just looked like a bear with some trunks and a bizarre little tusk. But modern elephant, the Asian and the African bush elephant, and I'm assuming by extension the African forest elephant as well, only really appeared on the scene about 10,000 years ago. So unlike that eland that we saw that sort of arrived on the scene half a million to a million years ago, elephant are quite new. That's great to know. What a great question. Miggy, thank you. It's always good to know new things. I don't know. Part of my fascination with the bush is the humility to know that I absolutely don't know everything. It's impossible to, but to have the inquisitiveness to want to know an answer to a question like that, and then to wonder, what drove that type of evolution. That bull elephant making his way off now. You can see that the wind speed is actually increasing. It's picking up a lot of dust and blowing it over the bushes there in the background. In fact, the direction that this wind is coming from is where the pans are. So, sort of over on the right hand side, and slightly behind us is where the pans are. Okakweo is situated just on the edge of the pans. You got to drive out to them. You can't see them from the camp, but they're not too far away. And can you imagine the gale that is blowing on the edge of those pans today, the salt pans? I wonder where that elephant's going to go now. Is he going to pick the game path that we can see branching off to the right? Or is he going to pick the game path that we can't see because it's sort of parallel to the horizon, but goes towards that largest clump of bushes off to the left-hand side? Let's see. Place a bet on it. I think he's going to be going left at the fork. Bully chasing the springbok there. Elephant. Gosh. Let's see. That looks like he's going to fork right. Is he? Is he going to go right? Yeah. He went right. And I lost my money. He'll probably stay on that very well defined game path quite some time. I love walking on game paths, an elephant does. I think it's because it's soft on their feet. Buddy gonna join him. Last sip from the fresh water. Probably only drink again tomorrow. I won't drink more than that. To give you an idea of the scale of this place, is the speed at which that elephant is walking is faster than I could walk. So it doesn't look that fast, but I've on many occasions tried to keep up with elephants walking in the bush, and the pace that they're walking at there is a slow jog for me. You catch up with him, and then you walk again, and then you fall behind very quickly, and so you have to catch up with a slow jog, and then you walk. So I don't know. I suppose that he's walking at around about 9 to 13 kilometers an hour, sort of 16, 69 or 68 miles per hour. And they will walk like this. They will do 40, 50 kilometers in a day if they need to. 25, 30 miles, no problem. See this vast plain that we're looking over now, even dwarfing to enormous elephant. I wonder what else is out there. Right, let's give this wind a chance to increase in velocity more. And for the turnaround to happen with the next group of animals, we're going to be flying back east again, where gremlins seem to have been sorted out, and visiting Old Donyo again. Gosh. And just like that, we're a couple of thousand kilometers further east at Afrikaans Old Donyo. Camera here in southern Kenya, and we're just being treated to an unbelievable amount of zebra today. I mean, there are dozens of zebra here. It's just really amazing. Elephant that was here a little bit earlier seems to have moved on. Seems to have. I can see a Maasai giraffe, obviously, and what looks to be a Cape eland or common eland. You just see its horns sticking up in the distance there. The wind is also blowing a bit today. Just listen to all that activity. Yeah, seems like our gremlins are still persisting there, and so we've jumped all the way back across to Okakweyo again, where we'll just sort of sit here and wait out the rotation of the next group of animals. You'll excuse us for that, obviously. The fact is that we do bring you these amazing pictures from these ultra remote places in Africa, and I, for one, am truly thankful that we get to do that. I'm sitting currently inside, uh, on the borders of the Greater Kruger National Park, close to Hoedspruit in South Africa, and we are busy looking together at a feed from a camera at Okakweyo in Namibia's Etosha National Park, which is three-quarters of the way up Namibia, close to Angola. Very, very, very far from where I'm sitting now. In fact, I drove from here there once, and it took me, let me just see, first day to get to Johannesburg, second day to get to Hansi, halfway up Botswana, third day to get to the Kavango River Panhandle at a town called Shikawi, fourth day to Tosha, but only on the eastern edge, a fifth day to get to Okakweyo. So from where I'm sitting now, 5 days of driving all day. Give you an idea of how far away this place is from where we are, or where I am. Okay, in the background we've got another large herbivore coming in. Don't quite know whether it's an oryx or a kudu. Looks like oryx. We'll see when they get a little bit closer. And see if you can notice the way that they sort of get to a point and then they run at the water. And then sometimes they just dive straight in, and other times they skirt around always to the right hand side of the pan, and then often wade into their bellies and drink. Of course, these oryx didn't do what we predicted them to do, which was go to the right of the pan and just wade it straight in. But then that has been the hallmark of my guiding technique since, I don't know, I can remember. Mother Nature always does pretty much exactly the opposite. It looks like we're getting a whiteout happening over here. You can see that even the the forest margins closest to us in that thicket have started to cloud out, and it's almost become completely obscure at the other end of the pan. So this wind is picking up a lot of that white dust and flinging it into the atmosphere. Definitely not pleasant there today. That is such a great thank you. That's an impala walking in the background there, not a springbuck. And there's an endemic impala species, the black-faced impala, and that is one of them that only live in Etosha. You're looking at a subspecies of impala that doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. And there's another one of these black-faced impala just walking across, and behind these desert oryx. For me, I cannot tell you how much I enjoy these oryx. I think they are the most strikingly handsome. And those horns for me are just unbelievable. They look almost supernatural. And then their stripy faces, reminiscent of the zebra we were looking at Aldonio a couple of minutes back. And then that broad white, light grey flank with black and white striped legs. And then bordered with that black ruff. So when they stand side on in profile, they're outlined. You see there? I love the way they're walking. Look at his feet on the left hand side. Like he's got something in his nappy. Fantastic shot. That black spot on the back would be orientated to the sun's incoming rays on cold days, and they'd be able to absorb the sun's heat there and warm up their bodies. And then they'd use those white flanks of theirs to radiate ultra hot rays away so that they can reflect sun's rays away from them. So they really do well in these desert conditions. Animal well suited to living in these pretty extreme environments. I wonder what's going to be next. What do you think? You're welcome to send me in your comments if you like. Registering on the WildEarth app, you can send me a question or comment. Let me know what you think is going to come into view next. Obviously not the springbuck, that will score you a very small point. Another animal actually which is great for these desert environments is the springbuck. Thought to be quite independent of water, although we see quite a lot of them out here. But these springbuck don't need permanent water or surface water to survive. And similar to the gemsbuck, will use their body orientation to the sun to either cool down or to heat up. That white at the back of their tails is highly reflective, and they will point their rumps at direct sunlight and cool down that way, and their flanks at direct sunlight to warm up, using that black marking there to absorb heat, much like the black marking on the back of the gemsbuck. The type of thermoregulation. They can also shiver, the same as what we can, in fact, and they will do so at quite low temperatures. Well, I suppose low is relative. I'll start shivering at around 20 degrees centigrade. Most people would think that's midsummer. Definitely a creature that enjoys. Well, I'm more heat tolerant. Let's just say that I am cold tolerant. Harris, you've asked me an interesting question. Does this waterhole expand for larger concentration of animals, I suppose? Um, I haven't seen this waterhole expand much past this point, to be honest with you, Harris. I've seen it actually a lot emptier than this. Um, and even when I've been at Etosha personally in, the height of the dry season here in October, where there literally is just a 24-hour procession of animals around these water points. I've never seen it bigger than this. So it doesn't expand much beyond its current shape at all, and will quite often be more empty than this is. Um, and also midsummer, I've been to Tosha, and I haven't noticed that you know after heavy rains that there's much, if any, additional water lying out there in the pans, so it doesn't overflow and run, for instance, away from us down what looks to be like that little valley where the game path is. I'm sure in extreme years this could fill up. I mean, the question as to why this open plain is here in the first place is unknown to me. I don't know the answer to that. So, is this just the remnants of an old lake? Is it in extremely wet years? Does this fill up with water and become a shallow pan? I don't actually know. But I don't think there's more than enough water here, and that would be able to be pumped here to keep any number of animals here. And although in summertime the animals in the Etosha National Park are spread far and wide, in wintertime highly concentrated around these spots, there's more than enough water here even for those periods. Let's see if I can find a census on the population of animals in Etosha, and I'll give you some idea of what the population is. Right, I've managed to find some information for us to contemplate. Um, Obviously, the data that's published in the web is outdated, um, and so we've got very outdated data here. But it'll give you an approximation. Then numbers will fluctuate, but not that much over sort of a decade. Um, but we're looking at about 900 red hartebeest, 10,000 springbuck, blue wildebeest about 4,000, zebra about 14,000, 3,000 giraffe, 3,000 elephant, 4,000 oryx, 3,500 ostrich, and about 1,000 eland, 1,300 eland. So let me give you that again just so that you can understand that even though Etosha National Park is so big and we do see so many animals around these water points, that their numbers are not actually that, there's not that many animals here. But believe me when I tell you that around these pans, it feels like every animal in creation will come here during the dry season. So we're looking at springbuck here now, and there are about 10,000 springbuck in the park. We were looking at some zebra, 14,000 zebra. So springbuck and zebra by far make up the greatest biomass of animals around. Then blue wildebeest, giraffe, of the sort of 3 to 4,000, ostrich 3,500, oryx 4,000, eland at 1,300, and we're looking at about 3,000 elephants. So there's some numbers for you there. Another interesting fact about these springbuck is that their coat, their fur, is actually quite thin. Their their fur to skin thickness ratio is quite thin, relatively speaking. I mean, let's take something like a waterbuck, for instance, which has a very, very thick, shaggy coat of fur. The springbuck, relatively speaking, has a skinnier or thinner fur, and that's because they need to radiate heat away from their bodies during the heat of the day. But obviously, it does lead them up to losing a lot of body temperature on cold evenings. And you'll find that they will stand next to one another and brush up against each other. But that shivering that I noticed, or have noticed in springbuck, is as a result of that skinnier than what you think fur skin ratio. And shivering obviously is a way for your body to increase temperature. So you create friction in your muscle fibers, which generates heat and warms you up or maintains your body temperature. It's therefore beyond me to figure out why on such a windy day you're going to get a springbuck like that wading sort of chest deep into the water. But it does also allow us to see that brilliant white rump, and particularly for us to notice how reflective that actually is. And that white rump, they can actually open up a crest along their back, and it's contained within that crest from that white rump onto their back that gland lives. And some reports say that it smells like honey, others say that it smells like pears. I've never smelt it myself, but I'll take it on fairly good authority. When my partner says it smells like pears, I'm not about to argue. All right, while we consider the springbuck and this gale that's busy blowing away our brilliantly blue sky, or our vibrant blue sky, let's see if those gremlins at Old Donyo have left us. Gosh, so jarring. Amazing. So still just a massive amount of zebra that are milling around this water. Zebra are not known to sort of hang around water points. They come in, drink, and then leave. And so I would imagine that this is a fairly large local group of zebra that have moved into this water. In fact, have a look at how wet the edges are from them frolicking about. They've been quite active this morning. Those of you who are just joining us, this is Africam's Oldonyo camera in southern Kenya. And for most of the morning, we've had a herd of zebra that has moved in and has pushed their way in here and have been quite boisterous. They've had a lot of activity with one another, coming in, rushing in, kicking and biting at one another. Having a chuckle here, the reference to these zebra in Tanzania called disco donkeys. And I think today they definitely are living up to their name. They're not just calmly standing by, between their tails waving all the time and all their jumping around. The word disco donkey definitely is an apt description. The other day we were having a chat during one of these shows about why the zebra is so fantastically striped. And I, for one, was brought up on stories about them confounding the eye and um, making it really difficult for predators to single out a single zebra in the rush, especially at nighttime, where a black and white zebra on the eyes of a cat who sees in shades of grey um, must be quite difficult for a lion or a hyena to pick out a zebra. And I'm sure that is still the case. I think that sort of dazzling effect you see in fish, you see it in birds. They do it to predators across the animal kingdom, and so I don't want to take away from that. I actually think that that's absolutely viable. But the scientific explanation for the stripes is for as a fly retardant. Where zebra occur, you also get biting flies. These biting flies transfer diseases, and it has been scientifically proven that a striped coat like this of highly contrasting colors doesn't attract the flies. It's least attractive for these biting flies, and so that is so far the conclusion from a scientific point of view that the zebra have evolved a coat that is a natural fly repellent. Interestingly, you can see that these eland are starting to get their own back, and they're pushing the zebra out of the way. But equally as interesting, you can see that there's a slight twist to the eland's horns. They belong to a genus called Tragelaphus, or the spiral-horned antelope, and other members of the Tragelaphus group of antelope include kudu. So, for those of you who are familiar with the greater kudu and their magnificently spiraled horns, the eland is also considered to have a spiraled horn. See if you can notice that. There's three different kinds of zebra. We're looking at the plain zebra here. This is the same zebra that we would see in, for instance, Madikwe, many thousands of kilometers further south, many thousands of kilometers further west in Etosha. All of them are plain zebra. The other two zebra that you get is the mountain zebra, and then you also get the Grevy's zebra, which occur in totally different environments and have very different sort of coat patterns and bigger ears. But they all belong to sort of the wild asses or the wild horses, of which there are, you said the other day, there's 7 different species, with 3 of them having stripes like this. And as we just mentioned now, the stripes are, as a fly deterrent, it's an evolutionary adaptation to deter biting flies that carry diseases, particularly the tsetse fly, the dreaded tsetse fly, which is a biting fly that occurs in East Africa, sort of southern and East Africa, in some numbers. They love lying in, or resting up in shade in the trees, and goodness me, in some areas they are unbearable. I always liken being bitten by a tsetse fly to having someone take those old steel coat hangers that you used to get and heating it up in the fire, and then just sort of gently pressing a centimeter, sort of half an inch or so into your flesh. That's what it feels like, and it swells up about the same, depending on where you're bitten and how much you scratch it. They can actually swell up, leaving you looking quite knobbly. I'm recalling a memory that I have in my head about the first time I ever flew into the Okavango Delta. And you take off from Maun, which is a tiny little airstrip in a quaint little village in the middle of the Kalahari, and you fly in these tiny single propeller aircraft, sort of 6-seaters, and you're sitting in there, and all the lodges have their groceries there, and you've got staff traveling with you, and it's bags and it's bowls and whatever else is inside there. And in the cabin was a tsetse fly, and I must be honest with you, the amount of thrashing about to try and kill that tsetse fly before it bit anybody was both terrifying and quite humorous at the same time. And to this day, I'm very thankful of the pilot for maintaining his nerve with all of us inside the cabin. Goodness me, that's a beautiful shot. Dustin. zebra, eland, tail swishing. Tom, you'd like to know why these zebra are so skittish? I don't quite know if skittish is the right word to use, Tom. No offense there. They're definitely active and fidgety, but skittish for me would suggest that they were nervous of something that was in the area. And these zebra are they're arriving from left and right. They're not focused in any one direction. Um, they're not all looking and staring off. They're just milling about and are quite active. Um, I don't think they're scared of anything as such, Tom. They're just energetic this morning. There seems to be an excited energy, not a nervous energy, an excited energy, like a pent up energy. Um, they're active, they're kicking and lashing out at one another, they're not biting each other. I haven't seen them fighting, so it's not males fighting for females. But they're definitely giving these eland, who are 4 times their size, a go for their money. I've noticed a couple of times these eland coming in there now with their head lowered and quite threateningly. These zebra couldn't give two hoots. Now, as mentioned, there we go. You saw that one eland just run towards, take a few steps towards that zebra. Again, a memory I have coming to my head about eland is my son was, I think he was 2 or 3 years old, and we were visiting a friend on a game farm, a nature reserve in South Africa that is fenced, that has wildlife in it. It's called a game farm, although they didn't breed with the animals. And this eland bull walked into the area where the accommodation was, and my son ran from me to the eland, just very innocently. And this eland bull put his head down and took those steps towards, same as what this eland did with the zebra, took these steps towards my son, and I went icy cold, thinking, gosh, this eland is going to bash my son. And my son stopped in his tracks. He lifted his hand, he pointed directly at the eland, and he shouted, "Hey!" at this eland. And this eland bull just stopped in his tracks and turned around and walked away. Very proud day. Now, we were talking about the zebra, the 3 different kinds of zebra that you find in Africa. You get the plain zebra, which is what we're looking at now, the mountain zebra, which occurs in southern point of South Africa, in the Western Cape, and then going up into Namibia, not close to Etosha, but just further west from there, between Etosha and the coast. And then you get the Grevy's zebra, which is the largest of the 3 zebra species, but also the most endangered, and that does occur in Kenya. So in the country we're at now, just a little bit further north, but the poor things are limited to about 3,000 only mature individuals, and in need of some care and attention. There's many hundreds of thousands of plain zebra, but there's only 3,000 of these Grevy's zebra. Kenya, a little bit to Ethiopia, but that's about it. To give you an idea of how many zebra they're estimated to be in Africa, these plain zebra, about 600,000. So quite a lot, with 250,000 of them currently in the Serengeti part of the migration. So you have about a million wildebeest. The number fluctuates, plus minus, and about 250,000 zebra that walk around with them. And they complete their circuit between Ndutu and the Masai Mara on an annual basis and make up, as we see there now, just over a third of the entire population of zebra in the world, as opposed to the Grevy's zebra, which only number 3,000 poor souls. Goodness me, this pan is it's unbelievably productive and highly variable. Yesterday, we spent time with 4 and then 5 a male elephant in a bachelor herd. Everything else was excluded. Nothing was allowed to drink with them. Today, we've only had 1 elephant, and he's left. He couldn't deal with the pressure, probably, with all these animals around. And everything is coming in, with the exception of giraffe. We haven't seen a lot of giraffe drinking today at all. Very skittish. But these eland have come in, and then just dozens and dozens and dozens of zebra. So great to see. So interestingly, male zebra will have harems that they will maintain, and they will steal females from one another. But what happens is that the amount of females that a male can hold on to only averages out at about the same. So every male zebra sort of hangs on to between 8 and 12 mature females. And although he might steal a few from his buddy next door, they're not very long lived, and he then has mares which are then stolen from him in turn. And so each herd within the greater herd only numbers sort of between 8 and 12 females with the herd stallion. He will then cover them once a year. They'll have a 12-month gestation, so it takes a year, roughly the same amount of time as it takes to grow an eland calf or a buffalo calf for that matter. And they'll gestate for a year and then give birth to a single foal. Twins amongst zebra are not common, in fact not recorded at all. Some of you may have chuckled at all the noises you're hearing coming from this zebra herd, some of which would be quite explosive gusts of gas. And that's because zebras' digestive system is not unique, but relatively special. They are known as hindgut fermenters. They don't possess a rumen, they don't ruminate like the two other species of antelope we see around this pan, or in fact, the giraffe that you're seeing coming into view now. Gosh, look at how giant this animal is. Wow. Are we going to be treated to something so special? There's just something so special about seeing a giraffe coming into drink. I think it's the vulnerability, to be honest with you, that is so endearing. Let's see if this Maasai giraffe has it in him. It's a male. Has it in him to expose himself like this and bend down and have a drink without all these boisterous zebra and bulky eland getting in the way. Come on, you can do it. For those of you with a keen eye, you can see the oxpeckers on the neck of the giraffe combing through its fur, picking off parasites, cleaning out wounds, acting as sentries, early warning systems for the giraffe. That looks like he's busy chewing some cud first. He's first going to swallow that before he comes down for a drink. Let's see what he does. You going to have a drink, big guy? How do you even begin to explain a giraffe to a person who's never seen a picture of one? Gosh. So while we're waiting for this giraffe to decide what he's going to do, let's get back to the digestive system of the zebra. And what I was saying is that for those of you with a keen ear, you might have heard quite comical explosions of gas coming from the nether regions of the zebra from time to time, especially when they're kicking out at each other. And in a large herd like today, it's definitely noteworthy, let's say that. And that's because their digestive system is a hindgut fermentation system rather than a ruminating system like a eland or giraffe has. And what this allows the zebra to do is to go through massive amounts of low quality grass relatively quickly. In fact, they can do double the amount of food in twice the time, in half the time that a wildebeest can do, for instance, which weighs about the same. And quite often, the well, what they're saying, the people that know, is that the symbiosis between the zebra herd inside the migration and the wildebeest herd as part of the migration, there's a symbiosis there called commensalism, where both species benefit from the relationship. The zebra often move through an area first, and they will eat the top of the grass, opening it up for the wildebeest who like the bottom of the grass. Zebra get the protection of the wildebeest because there's more of them, 1,000,000 versus 250,000. And the wildebeest gain from the relationship by getting their choice grass exposed by the zebra, who eat it quickly and move through double the volume. It's an interesting relationship. See if you agree with me on that. So the symbiosis there, or The partnership or the relationship between two species is called commensalism, where both species benefit from the relationship. Gosh, there's a lot of zebra. Look how the zebra is just dwarfing these, even the eland. So cool. Let's have a look at this giraffe chewing the cud now. So it's such a great shot. I'm going to stay here for a bit. Watch the giraffe chewing there. Watch when he stops chewing. See if you can notice the bolus of food which goes from the mouth down to the nape of the neck when he stops chewing, and the next mouthful coming back up. So while we're talking about digestive systems, watch there, and now watch again. Is he going to swallow? Let's see when he stops. Down and up. Next one. There you go. Right. He's going to drink. Let's see if we can see it in that sort of one off to the right. The second one from the right. It's giving us a better profile. Watch his throat when he stops chewing. Especially around about where the Adam's apple will be. That's usually where you can see the picture the best. Goodness, what a show. Oh, so beautiful. No, tough to show you what I want to show you today, but nevertheless, we're seeing it. This is a bachelor herd of male zebra. Oh, goodness, listen to me. A bachelor herd of male giraffe mainly, it seems. I don't see females. The one far off to the left could be a female. This one closest to us now, she could also be a female. So let me hold off actually saying whether they're just male, all males or all females. Right now, this is a male. He's closest to us. Looks like he's going to drink. This is also a male, one coming in now. Too many zebra milling about. The one second right, third right now. It's a male. 4 males so far confirmed. There's one of these dark face coming here. He's going to go down and drink. No, still quite skittish. For those of you who are particularly observant, have a look at the dark markings on the coat of the zebra. And when we finally do see some zebra at the pans in South Africa, where you don't have the Maasai giraffe, this is the Maasai giraffe, you will notice that these giraffes have much more jagged edges to their dots and their splotches. Wow, that's a great shot. Look at that picture. See, come on, you can do it. I think they're nervous of the fact that the water level has dropped so much. The zebra have basically sucked this pan dry. I think they're worried about slipping and falling in. It is a real danger. I've seen a giraffe drown in a pan before, slipped and fell, and couldn't get up in the mud. And a giraffe who stands 15 feet tall, 5.5 meters, drowned in water that was about ankle deep, a little bit deeper than ankle deep. Just got tired, and we found him lying, last couple of bubbles coming out of his nose. Nothing we could do. These giraffe are just enormous, massive legs. There's no ways that we could, with our hands, lift him up. And he passed away. But a giraffe will drown in this depth of water that you're looking at now, is my point. There you go. There you go. There you go. Down, down, down. So vulnerable. Very unsure. There you go. Such a special moment to share. So awkward. See if he goes down again. Interestingly, this gives us an opportunity to talk about something that's unique to the giraffe. That you saw that when he's bending down like that, his head is far below the level of his chest and his heart. And a giraffe has a great heart. A heart big enough to pump blood way up the neck all the way to the head. You can imagine now that with the head that low and the blood pressure that high, that the giraffe would be in danger of having his head pop off with the blood pressure or pass out when he lifts his head up like that. But that's not the case. Mother Nature has evolved an incredible thing. The base of the skull of the zebra is a nest, a mesh, a net of a web of capillaries. And what that does is it limits the maximum and minimum blood pressure that can be achieved inside the giraffe's head. And so it doesn't matter where the head is in relation to the heart, the blood pressure is the same all the time. Isn't that cool? Still haven't decided if this is a bachelor herd entirely or whether you've got a whole bunch of males accompanying one or two females. I want to believe that they're all males, but that's the thing with wanting to guess. Generally, I'm wrong. That's so cool. Scratching his face on his buddy's back. That is an enormous giraffe. I see what he's doing there. Okay, I'm fairly convinced that that giraffe we're looking at was a female. You can see most of the giraffe sort of left quite quickly, only one having actually drunk. We're still trying to decide if there's a mixture of females and males. This is looks like a female. I'm almost convinced, and I was convinced that one that was in the group there just now was also a female. And so what I'm going to say this is an educated guess at this point, is that we were looking at a couple of females, two from the looks of things, one of which may be nearing estrus or in estrus at the moment and quite close to when she ovulates or has ovulated, quite close to when she's able to conceive. And we're looking at a bunch of giraffe males that have come into the area to vie for her attention. That's definitely a female. And so what we have is we have competition amongst males for the affections in inverted commas of a female giraffe who is able to conceive. We are still at Africam's Aldonio Cam here in southern Kenya, where we've had an endless procession of zebra this morning. And what a treat. A herd of Maasai giraffe as well. A couple of females with attending males. And those males all being a mixture between full-grown bulls and some younger adolescents learning what to do. And that includes a speckling of eland as well as some oryx as well. No oryx at the moment. What you're looking at, that rusty colored antelope there, that's a full-grown eland. All of them dwarfed by the giraffe. I'll give you an idea of how big the giraffe is, you could walk I could walk as a 6 foot, just over 6 foot person. I could walk straight underneath the belly of that giraffe without brushing the top of my bald head. What a great view. We were just chatting about how big a giraffe's heart is in order to pump blood all the way to the top of its head, which is so far away from its chest cavity. The giraffe got one of the largest hearts per body volume, or per body mass in the animal kingdom. But what it does do is it creates some issues when the giraffe has its head lower than its chest, which hopefully we're going to see here now when this giraffe goes for a drink. But Mother Nature has figured out a way around that and has evolved a set of capillaries, a nest and web of capillaries just at the base of the skull, which moderates and flattens out the blood pressure inside the giraffe's head and stops the head from getting too much blood or too little blood, depending on its orientation. Here's an oryx, straight horns and the black and white face. Oh, what's going on there? Tom, a little bit earlier on, said an interesting thing. He wanted to know why these zebra were so skittish, and at the time, I wanted to disagree with Tom by saying it doesn't look like they're skittish. They just have this sort of excited energy going on. But there definitely seems to be some nervous energy around. I don't know if it's just because there's so many animals around this pan, or whether or not there's some other disturbance around. Could be the wind. Maybe there's some activity around that we can't see or hear. But definitely an interesting. I'm amazed at how much water these animals have all managed to drink. I mean, look, they're not small, and each of them is drinking a relatively big, well, not as much as what elephants would, obviously, but they're big animals. And you can see that barely the hooves of that eland are covered by water. So they managed to finish an entire dam full of water today. Goodness me. Interesting to see how long it takes this dam to fill up. Another bit of interesting news that's just come in. Apparently, this camera saw a cheetah here last night, which was the first time that a cheetah has ever been recorded on this particular camera at this particular location. And I thought that that was quite nice news to share with you. This type of environment is not really that suited for cheetah, although you find cheetah everywhere, even on the slopes of hills, in my experience. But cheetah are obviously better suited to wider open plains where they can see and hunt, see animals of a size that they hunt, and obviously catch them using their speed, but crucially also stay away from lion, leopard, and hyena. In thick bush like you've got here, they quite often are ambushed by those predators. And they don't seem to do, they're very successful hunters, but they don't seem to do that well from a longevity point of view in these thicker bush areas. Here we have this herd of giraffe back again. Now, the question I had a little bit earlier is this a bachelor herd? Definitely not a breeding herd. There's no young giraffe here. But I wanted to make sure that we got just our identifications right of the genders here. And this female close to us I actually think is in estrus. And that male that's behind her there is the accompanying bull. Look at this shame, so far. She's going to slip. Ooh, very skittish. Come on, you can do it. So vulnerable. So I think what she's been doing is that as her body is ready to conceive, she's, unbeknownst to her, but she's been advertising her breeding status through urine and through just pheromones, far and wide. And male giraffe have, heeded the call, so to say, and giraffe from all over the place have come in to attend to her. And what they do is give way to a hierarchy. The biggest, best male will obviously dominate the scene. But if there were two different giraffe here, two giraffe of the same size and stature, they'd have to fight it out with each other. But I actually think that this big bull that you see here now, this dark-skinned male that you're seeing, he's the one that is sort of excluding all the other males. And you can just see he's in magnificent condition. Just look at him. He doesn't want to let her anywhere out of his sight. And so here he goes. Oh, here we go. That's why. Gosh, elephant barging in here. Hello, big guy. And there you go. He just sort of, this is my space. Move. I think he's going to go straight to where the water point is, where the water's coming in, and we're going to probably see him here for a while. The sheer number of animals at this pan today have reduced the volume of water quite considerably. And the zebra freaking this elephant out. These zebra trying to nip at each other. Stallions can actually do one another quite a lot of damage. They got these erupted canines, so canines like we do, in the roof of their mouth, and they nip and bite at each other, and they can inflict quite big wounds. They can kick at each other as well, and they got incredibly strong kicks. And so, zebras running around doing their thing can be quite dangerous to individuals. And of course, for elephants who just like everything just calm, for the most part. They don't enjoy having that boisterous play, and you can see when this elephant's pretty tense demeanor. He just wants things to be calm. As we were saying a little bit earlier, the eland are actually very closely related to the greater kudus, that they're both from the Tragelaphus genus, which is spiral horned antelope. And believe it or not, even on one occasion, there's a record of an eland and a kudu interbreeding with one another, um, albeit that the offspring that they produced was sterile. But you can almost see the similarities in the face, particularly the muzzle. Although, from a this is a definitive difference in that the eland is a grass eater and the kudu is a leaf eater. Great view of this elephant drinking with the giraffe eating in the background. Just an interesting point of view, given the camera and the way your eye perceives there to be a difference in size here. There's a giraffe and looking slightly shorter than the elephant. So the question is this elephant the same as the one we had around the pan a little bit earlier, even though his tusks look quite similar? The answer to that is no. The elephant that was around here a little bit earlier had ears that had this quite definite tear in them. And this guy, he doesn't. Same feeding notch, albeit a different shape. And also the one tusk also broken off a little bit, possibly due to fighting or just being brittle, snapping against the branch. This is such a great shot of this East African oryx. Those horns of the oryx are so sharp. Really is a great photograph, or picture photograph. Zebra's tail, just a metronome. Double the pace of anything else. Let that oryx go down on its knees so that it doesn't slip. With all the play from the zebra, they've kicked up a lot of mud and moisture onto the rocks, and I actually think it's unsettling for most animals with hard hooves. Two female zebra here with a broad vertical stripe under the tail. There's a thin pencil stripe, it would be a male. So we're looking at two mares here, one of which looks to be quite pregnant. This elephant doesn't like animals behind him. He was chasing away. Yeah, he was only going to tolerate so much. You're welcome to ask me any questions if you like. It is a live and interactive show. If you haven't done so already, you can register on WildEarth's website and send through your comments or any observations you make, or any information that you have. Gladly like to share with you today. The first time we've actually had a great look at these oryx, to be honest with you. They seem to be always in the background, which makes seeing the details quite hard. A little bit earlier on, we saw the western oryx in Namibia. Have a look at those bold stripes on the ears and the face. And that's from the front, you find it to be such a great pattern. Look at that. It's so unique. I know it's been overshadowed by the zebra, who's just sort of all covered in these black and white stripes. An elephant, calm down. He moves and everything gets a fright. Gosh, those horns are so sharp on that oryx. Imagine they could do unbelievable damage. As opposed to the shorter, stubbier, twisted horns of this eland. No less dangerous, to be honest with you. You can imagine that the weight of that animal plus the power in the haunches and the shoulders launched behind those horns doesn't take much to do a lot of damage. Eland also having that fluff of hair on the forehead. Yeah, look at that. Sharp, sharp horns. See the stripes on the eland's coat? Very reminiscent to the stripes on the coat of the kudu. Picasso, you'd like to know what is the ratio between male and female giraffe in an area like Oldonyo? Goodness me, Picasso, that is a question of questions. I don't actually know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. It's tough to say because this is just my experience thinking about it. Um, Giraffe fall prey to lion when they're young. So lions eat a lot of giraffe, male and female, when they're young. And then once they get a little bit older, you find that you see a lot more giraffe females together, or your impression of seeing more giraffe is that there's more females together because you see them in herds. Whereas the only time you get to see herds of male giraffe is in sort of loose aggregations like this when there's a receptive female around. Other than that, you see lone giraffe moving around sort of semi-nomadically between populations of females, but you don't get an overall impression of how many male giraffe there are because of the fact that you just see them in ones and possibly twos. But you do see a lot of male giraffe, and you don't see that many herds of female giraffe. I'm going to hazard a guess here, although, like I've said before, please know that as it comes out of my mouth, it's probably nonsense. But I would say that it's probably 50-50. I'd like to go and research that, though, so that's an interesting point. And so, Picasso, well done on the question of the day. But nevertheless, you have my own experience to fall back on and use for now. Today we've been treated by such a lovely sight of these oryx. We had that close-up view of the oryx at Etosha just now, in Etosha just now, where they seem to be a lot more grey and not as reddy coloured. But there are far more oryx that we're seeing here than there are there, or at least today. Male and female oryx both have horns, with the female's horns being longer and more slender, and the male's being stockier and more robust. So these are all female oryx, and I, for one, enjoy the female's horns more than the males. They often can be, noticeably out of proportion long, and quite often have sort of an exciting tip there. The tips are not as beautifully formed as these are. And quite often they have like a splay to them, or one would be slightly higher than the other. Formidable weapons. And believe it or not, if you take the skull of a oryx and you look from the eyeball out toward the point of the horn, that they can actually see the point of their horn, which means that they can place the point of their horn really accurately. Very similar to how you would watch a ball into your hand in cricket or baseball, or catch a frisbee or a boomerang, a rock or whatever's thrown at you, basketball. Um, these guys can accurately place their horns and fend off, adversaries if they were male on male wrestling, but also predators. I, for one, don't want to have an oryx come at me with those horns for sure. We've been so spoiled with these oryx and this elephant and this giraffe, but we've also left the pan in Etosha alone for a while, and with that wind blowing, I'd love to see what the sky looks like there at the moment. Let's head over there and go and have a look. Goodness me, look at that. So the wind has been picking up steadily across the morning, and we have what is effectively, I suppose, not quite a whiteout, but I mean, in terms of African vistas, all the white calcrete dust that's been picked up from the pans, the salt and sediments from the pans have been kicked up into the atmosphere. And yesterday, where we had an electric blue sky reflected in a clear pan, today we've got a ruffled surface and this almost like snowed in, misty appearance. Wow. And contrasting quite heavily between the two oryx species you've seen, we had the East African oryx up at the Old Donya pan, whereas now we've got the common oryx, it's oryx that's more heavily associated to these desert areas, swimming about in the pan in spite of the cold and the wind. What a sight. Barely a hoof full of water at Old Donya, and here we've got oryx swimming around in the Namib Desert, one of the driest places on earth. Like, I suppose there's a head shake moment there. It seems like it's conflicting. Now, Contrary to what you are watching right here, and another conflict, I suppose, is the fact that both the springbuck and the oryx that we're looking at now don't need water to live. Apparently, they are independent of surface water and can get all of their hydration needs from the vegetation that they live on. But as is often the case, Mother Nature has her own way of doing things, and when there is water available, why not use it? And so even these two antelope species, which are so heavily, well, not heavily, let me change my words, which are so capable of living in desert environments, super hot, extreme temperature changes, no water for months, years on end. Even they will drink and revel in surface water when they can. Off on the left hand side, we have a kudu, greater kudu. Just been chatting about kudus now, the fact that they're so closely related to the eland we were watching at Africa Maldonio. And to give you, anyone who's new to the show, some context, where we are now is a couple of thousand kilometers away from where we were just a couple of seconds ago. In fact, I'll tell you now exactly. So the distance driving is in the shortest route possible between where we were a couple of seconds ago at Oldonyo and where we are now at Etosha at Okakweyo is 3,700 kilometers. Let me just say that again. If you were to drive, it would take you, at best, it's going to take you 3 or 4 days, actually, 3 or 4 days, and is 3,756 kilometers point to point. And you will be covering 4 countries in the process. Sorry, yeah, 4 countries. You're going to be crossing through half of Namibia, the entirety of Zambia, the entirety of Tanzania, and a small portion of Kenya. Gotta love this show. It's just amazing. Yeah. I think the point I was trying to make is that the weather system that we're seeing playing out here, which is quite substantial winds blowing out from the pans, picking up the salt and the calcrete and throwing it into the atmosphere and whiting out the sky almost so that there's no blue. I don't see any blue from where I am right now. Definitely not the same weather as we were seeing above Aldonio, which is a scattering of clouds with the cloud cover actually getting thicker. All a sign of the seasons. Now those oryx have finished their drink and their swim and are now heading out, back out into the white. You find their feeding grounds, leaving us with the springbuck. For the last couple of minutes of the show, I must be honest with you, today has flown by. I can hardly believe that we've been at it for 3 hours already. Such great views today. Elephant and giraffe, the oryx, the eland, springbuck, black-faced impala. Lots of action. Punching in nice and tight there, watching the springbuck drink. showing you what we were speaking about a little bit earlier, where a springbuck have an adaptation to trying to regulate their body temperatures. Obviously, deserts are known for being super hot and super dry, and springbuck have the ability to transfer a lot of heat through their skin. Not only is the skin very thin and the hair cover quite sparse, but they can sweat and they can shiver, so they can lose what little moisture they have through their skin to evaporate off on their skin and cool their skin down and therefore their blood. But they can also shiver, which increases heat inside the muscle fibers. That black stripe that you see there can absorb sun when they're standing sideways to the sun, but there's a white patch on their bums which can also reflect the sun and present less body surface to direct solar radiation, and so reflect heat off. And they also have the ability to highly concentrate their urine, so they can extract a lot of moisture from their food, and their urine then comes out super concentrated. All just tweaks and characters of these desert antelope. What a great view. See how deep the springbuck goes. I can't imagine swimming on a day like today. I'm cold just watching that. Take the last couple of minutes of the show just to say thank you to all of you out there for watching the show with me and for participating and asking your questions. I want to thank you for your support in any way that you give it to WildEarth, so that we can continue to provide you with fantastic video feeds that we do from all over these epic wilderness areas. I want to say thank you to the crew behind the scenes for doing the job that you do, and for everyone involved in WildEarth and all the partners, all the partner companies making it possible for us to have these fantastic videos from all over the place. Just thank you, much gratitude all round. I'll see you again in a couple of days. I don't think I'm on the show for the next couple of days, so I'll catch up with everybody when I'm back on camera again. Thank you for the week. It's been superb. And so I'm going to say goodbye for now, and we're going to close off the show from Itosha Okokwe. All the best.